Got a lot of stuff to move, but this is going to be the before. We're modifying the chicken area into a chicken/duck area for our rescue duck and get her like 1 or 2 friends. So that's a project there. We've started an herb garden back there. And all of this is going to get turned into garden this year. So, like I said before, and then we'll do an after. But this is how I'm early starting my plants this year. This was a $200 pop-up hothouse or greenhouse from Amazon with a $60 heater. And I'm going to tell you, this $60 heater, now admittedly it's only been getting down to the 30s, but it keeps it nice and warm in this whole thing. I've been experimenting with shelves, with what works, and I had some of my aquarium racks from my fish room I broke down, and didn't really care for those. They're just too wobbly. I mean, when they're braced up against the wall, that's fine, but I already had an entire rack of peppers fall over and I had to repot them when the wind was blowing, because this thing will pick up and move if you don't have it blocked down, and it also will not even hold up for an inch of snow, so I'm going to have to add bracing poles, but it works. So for a total of $260 to have a 20-foot by 10-foot heated greenhouse has been awesome. This is my happy space now that I don't have my fish room, which, if you don't know, like we remodeled, we rented out our upstairs because I'm quite tired of working for 2 jobs to pay for the other rental that our renters did $10K in damage. So, and I also hurt my shoulder, and among other things, so have seriously cut back on the fish hobby, and we're turning our backyard into a garden area. And my daughter, who is on the autism spectrum, she wants to kind of open a garden plant sale during the spring and then sell her vegetables during the summer. So I have planted obviously way more than I can plant on even an 1.5 acres. So I'm actually busting at the seams, and I need to pot up a lot of tomatoes. So, oh, back to shelving, of course. So what I found I actually really like is the metal wire racks. If I can get a clear picture on this one, from Walmart. So this is a double shelf. This is like a, I think it's more than 5 feet tall, and we split it in half. They have smaller ones like this that are only 5 feet that fit perfectly along the edge of this, because one of the taller ones will not fit on the edge walls, but one of their 5 feet ones will. And these allow the sun in, they allow water to drain through, they're very sturdy, they don't wiggle and bend like the other racks do. And I also think that it just looks nice and clean with the silver ones. Although I did fit some of these little greenhouses. Now, for these little greenhouses, you can buy these pop-up plastic greenhouses for $29. And what I did is I hooked up lights. These were I think they're Barina lights. Actually, I think, yeah, if you look at it, it's a Barina light, which you can get those very reasonable price. And I'm going to tell you, I had a bunch of them running, and it did not up my electric bill like hardly anything, as compared to what I was running electric wise when I was running a full fish room with my linear piston air pump and all the lights for the fish room and stuff like that. Like, my electric bill dropped even with lights running for these greenhouses by almost $200. So thumbs up to that, I guess. You know, changing hobbies, sometimes you just do that. But these greenhouses, they work good indoors. They do not work outdoors. The rain will pull these hoods down. These things will fall over in the slightest breeze. But indoors, for controlling moisture and for keeping lights, or even in this greenhouse, like, I could put these inside of my greenhouse before I had this heater. So it would be a greenhouse inside of a greenhouse essentially, but it was keeping the plants doubly warm. So even on freezing nights, without a heater, these plants were staying fine, especially with the lights going. In fact, I had like moisture and like heat from those lights trapped inside of there. So I could put these greenhouses inside of a bigger greenhouse, put my peppers in them and tomatoes, like the more sensitive ones, and they would be fine. But I do recommend you using what are they called? Zip ties. Zip ties to zip tie the shelves down, because they fall apart at nothing. I mean, it's been really frustrating with dealing with that popping off. So I finally zip tied them all down, and it's much more stable. And I also recommend using a mallet to tap them together, because otherwise they'll pop apart. Had one of the shelves doing that while I was putting plants on it, dropped another one. So lesson learned there. But if you're going to start plants indoors and you want to keep moisture down, keep the moisture in, I do highly recommend these $29 pop-up ones for using indoors. The other thing I actually did this year is, because as many of you know, you can buy these pellet trays, but they are flimsy as hell. And it is like $9 for one of these things full of, 72 cells. Well, I actually found on Amazon, you can buy, I think it was Amazon, or it might have been one of the gardening places. Regardless, I got 2,000 of these pellets for $100. And I've actually been just buying Dollar Tree $1 Tupperwares, because these I will be able to reuse forever. And one of these circle ones like this will hold 30 peat pellets. I don't have to worry about them being too heavy, them being too awkward, them bending and breaking. I can put 30 tomato plants, which for each variety I'm growing, that will leave me 2 or 3 for me to plant of the kind to try. And then, 25 of them at least for my daughter to sell at her plant sale. And this is something she can carry. This is something that's not going to bend in the middle. We had one of these bend in the middle while she was carrying, and she was so brokenhearted because a couple of the basil fell out. And I'm like, don't worry about it, kid. We'll get it fixed. So we went to these. And like I said, this is just $1. And these lids allow enough heat plus trap moisture that it works even better. I'm telling you, it works even better. There's some cauliflower than the pellet trays. And when I calculated it out, I think I calculated out that buying all of these with shipping, the peat pellets, 2,000 of them for $100 was like 5 cents I think per pellet that I'm spending to start my plants. And this works really well for, it doesn't work well for small ones. So I tried with like cabbage, that got leggy way too fast. Tomatoes it worked really good for. Basil it has worked really good for. Let me show down here. My basil, I can just pop these into plants when I can divide these up. That has worked really good for, because I can sprinkle them. Their seeds are not too tiny. I tried with like oregano and thyme, and they were just so tiny, and they were just so delicate. It just, I don't know, it just didn't work. But tomatoes, this has been amazing for. Basil, this has been amazing for. I'm starting all my squashes, cucumbers, and that, so I can pot them up. Then you can also watch the germination. So that's worked great for that. Peppers, even if they get kind of leggy, they are not delicate. So I did multi-sow my peppers, and they are so easy to just pick apart and then plop them into an upgraded tray. So I just literally throw a handful of those on paper towels, or in this case in dirt, germinate them, and then separate them out one at a time. All of these trays I pretty much pre-germinated the paper towels on peppers on paper towel, and then just set the seeds on top of the dirt with a little bit of moisture, and away they went. So yes, this is my new happy space, we'll say. But I might have to set up a second one, because by the time I split up all these tomatoes and even the basil, and I haven't even, right today I'm just finally starting cucumbers and squash and pumpkins in multi-seed trays. So these are some of the tomato varieties that I mean, mostly these are all Baker Creek. I've found I obviously will always support M.I. Gardner. I love M.I. Gardner, so I do buy some of their stuff, but I've found seed-wise, Baker Creek seems to 2 to 3 times overload their packets in what they list. So when you're buying a packet for like $3, like I've bought a packet of $3 of seeds that says 25 on the pack, and I've sowed an entire 72 cell thing and still had a couple seeds left over. So I mean, you're getting quite a bit. So these all need to get planted next week in our ground. So this is like some, I think this is either the purple broccoli or the purple cauliflower. And then I think I sowed 2 kinds of broccoli and a kind of cauliflower to get in the ground. I have leeks to get in the ground. I have my bunching onions to get into the ground that have been there. I have so much to do and not enough time to do it. So, but I will say with some modifications, this greenhouse and this little heater was the best purchase so far this year. Definitely.